I'm excited to make a presentation to you on Virtual Food Sustainability Academy, just to show you how we managed to launch this course last year, and to share with you the online as well as the practical aspects of the course. And so I hope that you'll be able to learn something from it. Yeah, so the Virtual Food Sustainability Academy originated from a project we called the Project Towards Food Sustainability, Reshaping the Coexistence of Different Food Systems in Africa and South America. I'm sure you have heard about this project. It was funded by the Swiss National Science Foundation. And initially, the project was between two countries, Kenya and Bolivia. And then in the second phase, the project expanded to 4 other countries. That is Zambia and Ghana in Africa, and Brazil and Colombia in South America. And basically, the first phase of the project was to do research to understand the food systems in the 2 countries. And the second phase of the research was to apply the FoodSAF, which is a framework that was. Yeah, so here is the FoodSAF. It's a food sustainability assessment framework. It is a participatory framework that you can use with various stakeholders. And the FoodSAF has 6 pillars, 5 pillars of food sustainability. And the pillars are the right to food, food security, poverty and inequality, environmental performance, and socio-ecological resilience. So we consider food sustainability to be a situation where at least all the 5 are met, or to a certain degree. And the FoodSAF has 15 indicators. So for each pillar, you have 3 indicators. And we arrived at these indicators because they're very easy to use in a field environment, and you do not require to do a lab test. Through the Food Sustainability Assessment Framework, we were able to launch some TPAs. A TPA is a transformative pilot action. It's a small project which can contribute towards food sustainability at a local level. And so in Africa, we have had 6 TPAs spread over Zambia, Ghana, and Kenya. And these TPAs include, for example, construction of a milk cooler house and installation of a milk cooling system to be able to cool milk. You know, the farmers can bulk the milk and market it. And then we have another TPA that includes construction of a grain aggregation store among smallholders, so they can bring their grain together and then market it. So these are just examples of TPAs in Africa. In South America, we had several TPAs in Bolivia and Colombia, as well as Brazil. So these are just examples of TPAs in Bolivia and Brazil. So in Bolivia, one of the TPA was to preserve agrobiodiversity of maize. And this lady you see in the photograph is a Chief Angela, displaying maize varieties in Bolivia, Chaco region. And then the picture you see on the other side is the illustration shows how we used the TPA to change policy that prohibited smallholder farmers from selling cheese made from raw milk. So, you know, the farmers were denied this chance to sell cheese from raw milk, which is a traditional culture among communities in Brazil. And therefore, through the TPA, we went through a process of changing the policy, and the policy was actually changed. And the lower photograph shows traditional meal, so kind of promoting traditional cuisines amongst stakeholders. So coming back to the Virtual Food Sustainability Academy, And so the FoodSAF, the Food Sustainability Assessment Framework, became now our main tool in the Virtual Food Sustainability Academy, and our modules were derived from the FoodSAF. So we have 5 modules: food security, right to food, socio-ecological resilience, environmental performance, and poverty and inequality as our modules. And then we included an introductory module to introduce some concepts of food systems to the learners. And then the last, I don't call it module, it is a participatory assessment of food sustainability, which took place in the field. And so we took the students to the field to be able to use the FoodSAF to identify the strong areas and weak areas in the food system. And the VFSA is made up of 5 universities: the Institute of Geography at the University of Bern, University of Nairobi, University of Nigeria, Tsukka, Compass in Bolivia, which is a network of universities that are, believe in food sustainability. And then we have National University of Colombia. And the project was a 1-year project funded by the Swiss National Science Foundation. So this 1 year last year was simply a learning process to see how it works, and then perhaps the universities can introduce this in their curriculum. Coming back to University of Nairobi, how did we do it? We managed to advertise the academy for several months, from February to July. And actually we got just 19 students after a long period of advertisement. And these 19 students, 12 were ladies and 7 were men. And the education qualification was from Form 4, secondary education, which is like 12 years of learning, to PhD. And then geographical distribution with students from Kenya, South Sudan, Tanzania, not Ethiopia, Tanzania, and South Africa. So how did we conduct the online learning? So we had students who had never been in a virtual classroom. And so what we did first was to provide the students with, a university email so that they can access our virtual learning systems, and then to give them some kind of registration numbers. And because it is only a 4 months course, so then, the identity has to be unique from the identity of other students. And secondly, the project had to have, each country or each university had to have an ITC expert to train the students, and also some of the resource persons who did not have an idea of using online teaching. We had one resource person that is not from the university environment, but who had been involved in the FoodSAF research for many years. And we did several exercises, including mapping of actors in food systems, mapping of food systems, discussion groups, where students go and discuss online in groups, and then they come back and present in plenary. And this was a good opportunity for the students at least to interact with each other, virtually, and then they had a chance of physical interaction in the field later on. Yeah, so how did we conduct the field work? We conducted the field work for 1 week in Makueni. So the idea was to go in an area where we had not implemented the TPA. And so we went to Makueni, although we have a project in Makueni, but we went to a different area. This area is an arid and semi-arid area, and therefore the idea was to be able to allow the students to interact with the stakeholders on the ground, extension personnel and farmers, and to to have an opportunity to interact with the food system and then have a discussion with the farmers about what are the challenges, what are the strong areas, and what are the weak areas, and how do they think they can improve food sustainability. So the first day of the field work, we just had one day to go to the field, and it was hectic. You know, with COVID, you can't have a long time exposure, you know, outside with the students. So we had just one day to go to the field with the resource persons and then the extension personnel. And we visited specific farmers. And these farmers also joined us the following day, the following 3 days for a workshop to be able to discuss food sustainability. So already we developed a tool before we went to the field, interview schedule, where the farmers can now, the students were able to use this guide to interview the students. And these are some of the photographs that the students took. And just to mention that there's a photograph from Tanzania. There are some students from outside the country that did not make it because of COVID-19 protocols, and therefore they had a chance also to implement the FoodSAF wherever they were, using a guide that we provided. So the students visited farmers in groups of 2, so that at least each student has an opportunity to interview and also to take notes. And then, of course, the interviews were conducted in Swahili, because most of the Kenyans at least can understand Swahili. And in the pictures you can see, of course, some exhaustion, some evidence of exhaustion from myself. In the upper picture, it was very hot. And the second picture is Dr. Kiteme guiding the students as they go through interview. Yeah, so how did we conduct the participatory food sustainability assessment? So the first step is to explain the indicators to the farmers. Remember, the students have had only one day, so they don't understand the food system. However, during the discussions, they get to know more about this food system. So you explain all the 15 indicators one by one, and then you allow the farmers to contextualize the indicator to their local conditions. And then you give them time to discuss and build consensus. And then now they are able to score. And the scores are from 1 to 5, where 1 is very poor and 5 is excellent. So when you begin, of course, you have to show them this. You agree, like you use some faces like the ones in the picture. And then the framework is blank. So because you don't want the farmers to forget, you can explain like 2 indicators, and then you score and you shade in the framework. And you give them enough time for them to be able to discuss and agree. Yeah, so the participatory food sustainability assessment was important for the students to be able to learn, to kind of implement a framework that they had already learned from the classroom, and to see practically how it is done. And so you have a workshop kind of environment where there's a lot of discussions that go on and consensus building for the students. Unfortunately, one of the challenges we faced is that the facilitator has to use local language for the farmers to really, understand. And then here are students from different communities, so it posed a challenge. And then we had to, interpret to the students the whole process. So it took a bit of time. Yeah, so this is the outcome of the FoodSAF. So you have the framework with the faces showing how to score the indicators from 1 to 5. And so in each of the spaces you shade. Once they agree, maybe it is 2, then you shed it and you move to the next one, they discuss and agree. So the end result is this spider diagram that shows the weak areas of the food system and the strong areas. And here what we found was that performance of the value chain scored the least, and then also benefits of the food system to the environment, because the farmers said that they use a lot of chemicals, and they think that the chemicals affect the environment. And they also say that they work very hard, but they don't get good value from their hard work. So there is a problem with the value chain right from the production to consumption. Yeah, after this, the students were also allowed to visit one of our projects to see practically how FoodSAF can create real solutions in food systems. So we visited this grain aggregation store, which had been negotiated by farmers using the FoodSAF. So when we visited the farmers, we started the same process of explaining to them what the research was all about, what were the results. Remember, the research was not done in Makueni, it was done in Mount Kenya region. So you go to a new area and you want to validate the FoodSAF and also use the FoodSAF to create a solution, which we call the TPA. And so the students visited, and it was a good chance for them to see the end product of this whole process of negotiation by farmers. So what were the challenges? One of the challenge was that the students had a lot of connectivity issues, just the same problem that I'm facing right now. The fieldwork was also very expensive, because then you have to hire, we had to hire like 2 vehicles so that the students are spacing, you know, they are not sitting very close to each other. And then you need a big hall so that, you know, there's some kind of spacing. And then the students were trained just for 1 week on how to use the online learning system, Google Classroom. So we had some challenges, like during assignments, some of them will, you know, submit a blank sheet because they did not, you know, follow. And so the IT person had to move together with the students throughout the course. The other challenge is that when you go to the field just for 1 day, it's not enough. So you need to create time to have a field work like for 2 days, so that you are able to interact with the food system and the actors, so that by the time you're doing the FoodSAF, at least you understand the food system that you're dealing with. In a project environment, this is possible. But for our case, it was not possible for us to be in the field for long. Of course, it was very hot, so people who come from highlands also had challenges. If you have to do intensive field work just for 1 day and you have to walk a lot, it was not easy. And actually, one student was like fainting. So, you know, just encouraging the students to drink a lot of water. Over-reliance on local actors to plan the fieldwork proved to be a challenge. So we were not able to travel to the field to do a reconnaissance. So we relied on people that we know already in Makueni to plan for us. And when we went, so you have the extension person and you have a contact person that we use together with CETRAD. And so when you arrive, this one is saying we need to visit this farmer. Another one is saying, no, I had prepared this farmer to visit. So it was like we wasted a bit of time. So we learned a lesson. And the participation of male students was very low. I don't know why. Generally in Kenya, this is a trend where the ladies are more even in classrooms. And we also had some dropout due to several challenges which students faced, so they had to drop out. Yeah, so the next steps is that we have learned. Last year we learned. So this year what we are doing is that each university is supposed to develop this course and include it in their curriculum and look for funding. And then we are supposed to make the materials available on the websites. So there are only two websites, one in Africa and another one in South America. So we are in the process of preparing some small videos that we can upload. And then also just spread the academy to other interested institutions. For example, in Africa, we have Africa Research Universities Alliance, ARUA. And in South America, there is the Red Clocal Alliance for Food Sustainability. So the idea is also to spread this word. And I hope that I can get some few people here who will be interested, to do this also in their universities. So thank you very much for listening.